All right, strangers, file in while I read to you a story. Gift for the fairies. Okay. Welcome back to part 3 of our reading of the classic tale Beowulf. Where we left off, what has transpired thus far. Beowulf had arrived to the kingdom of Hrothgar, I think his name is, and they had been plagued by the creature Grendel, who had been sneaking into the mead hall at night, taking out Danes and killing them, dismembering them, etc. This had occurred many times. Beowulf had heard this from his far-off kingdom and come to the house of Hrothgar. Hrothgar. Come to the house of Hrothgar, promising to kill the creature. And he did, with his bare hands, or at least mortally wounded Grendel, who then fled to his own house at the bottom of a lake. And so Beowulf and his crew followed the trail of Grendel to the lake. Beowulf then swam to the bottom, where he not only found the body of Grendel, but also Grendel's mother, the Water Witch, and slayed her with a magic sword that he found in the lair. And after that, he dismembered Grendel's body, because, you know, revenge is a cycle that doesn't end, and to which the sword he used dissolved, and he retrieved the head of Grendel and showed it, and there was much rejoicing. And so we are on chapter 25. If you have your own beverage, coffee or tea, drink along with me, have a sip, piping hot, on this cold autumn day in northern Michigan. And relax while I, in my soothing voice, read you the story of Beowulf. See who is speaking here. We cut the story off mid-sentence. Well, it was a long spiel, a rant, really. It was Hrothgar. Hrothgar speaking. Chapter 25. Until arrogant pride spouts in his spirit and grows large within, while the guardian of his soul falls off to sleep, a sleep far too sound, beset by cares, with a killer quite near, who wickedly shoots an arrow from his bow. Then hit in the breast under his helmet by the piercing arrow, he cannot protect himself against the sinister commands of the evil spirit. His long-held treasures he thinks too little, and grasps them grimly, not proudly giving rings graced with gold, forgetting and neglecting the ruler of glory. God had formerly given him prosperous destiny, his great portion of honors. But after in the end it ever comes to pass that man's short-lived flesh proves itself frail, fated to fall. Then another comes to power, who gives out great gifts without any care, sharing with the nobles without fear of loss. Defend yourself against malice, dear Beowulf, the best of men, and choose the better course, everlasting profits. Do not foster pride, glorious warrior. The great fame of your might lasts but a little while. Then soon enough will sickness or the sword deprive you of strength, or the grasp of flames, or the surging flood, or the slashing blade, or the flight of a spear, or horrid old age, etc., etc., or the gout, or the plague. The brightness of your eyes will diminish and grow dark, and then even you, great hero among men, will go down in defeat to death. Thus have I ruled the Ring Danes under the heavens for 50 winters, raging war to protect them against many peoples throughout this middle earth, with spears and swords, so I did not consider myself to have any enemy remaining under the sky's expanse. But here, my homeland suffered reversal of fortune, of grief following happiness, after Grendel the invader became my monstrous enemy for many years. Without any break I bore that oppression, with much sorrow in spirit. May the Creator be thanked, the eternal Lord, that I survived with life, so that I may see with my own eyes that sword-bloodied head after the long struggle. Go now to your seat. I have joy in celebrating the honors from battle, for between us two many riches will be shared when morning comes. In gladness of spirit, the Get then went to seek out his seat as the wise king directed. Then once more as before a feast was made ready, for heroes famed for courage, sitting in the hall for this occasion. The shadows of dusk deepened, spreading darkness over all. Seasoned warriors rose up as their hoary-haired king, old ruler of the Shieldings, wished to seek his bed. Well pleased was the Get, the famed shield warrior, to find his own rest. Then a hall thane showed the way to the warrior, come from a far land and weary from his venture. The thane ministered to the needs of the man with all due courtesy, such as in those days seafaring warriors were supposed to receive. What does that mean? The great-hearted hero took his rest. The hall rose up broad and gold-adorned that morning. The guests slept within until the black raven with blithe spirit announced the joy of the heavens, the coming of the sun. Then brightness hastened. The warriors moved quickly as the nobles were eager to embark on the journey back to their people. The brave-hearted visitor wished to seek out his ship far from the hall. Then battle-brave Beowulf ordered that Hrunting be brought forth to Unferth for him to take back the sword, the beloved blade, and thanked him for that gift. The Get said he thought the sword a good war friend, hold in battle, and said that he found no fault in the edge of the blade. That was a high-minded man. Then eager to depart. What is the quality on this? My God. Why is it so low? Oops. You like my bass? Oh, it is what it is. My pixelated self. I apologize for my unshaven, unkempt look. I'm actually growing a beard this fall, and I couldn't wait till November, aka No Shave November, aka Movember. It just wasn't in the cards. Have a sip. Then, eager to depart, the Geats were all dressed, ready in war gear. Their prince, who had won honor among the Danes, the brave hero in battle, went to Hrothgar's high seat and greeted the king. 26. Beowulf spoke, the son of Ecgtheow. Now we seafarers, come from far off, wish to say we desire your leave to seek out our own King Hygelac. We have been welcomed here most graciously. You have hosted us well. If I can do anything in this wide world to earn from your greater heart's affection, ruler over men, than I have already performed of works of war, I shall stand ready. If I should hear, over the stress of the sea, that neighboring nations threaten you with war, as enemy peoples have done in the past, I shall bring to your aid thousands of war things. An army of heroes. I know that Hygelac, the king of the Geats, protector of his people, though young in years, will support me in this with words and deeds. Thus I will honor you well, and bring into battle a forest of spears, to support you with strength when you have need of men. If some time your son Hrethric should decide to come to the court of the Geats, he could count on finding many friends there. It is truly fitting to visit faraway countries for a man of real worth. Then Hrothgar spoke, gave reply to the Geat. The ruler of wisdom has sent well-formed words into your head. Never till now have I heard such mature speaking by a man so young. You are young in might, prudent in spirit, wise in wordsmithing. I fully expect that if it should happen that the spear of a shaft, sword, grim battle, sickness, or blade of iron swept away Hrethel's son, your dear lord, the people's protector, and you still have life, that the Sea-Geats could not seek anywhere to find a better choice for their own king, Horde guardian of heroes, if you would rule the kingdom of your kin. I admire your spirit more and more as time passes, dear Beowulf. You have brought it about that both our peoples, the nations of Sea-Geats and Spear-Danes, shall share in the peace and put strife to rest. The malicious evil they endured before, while I wield power over the wide kingdom, treasures will be shared, and many a man will greet another with gifts over the gannet's bath. The gannet being a large water bird, greasy of meat, and tough to chew. That's my own amendment, not the author's. The ring-proud shift shall bring over the seas tokens of mutual affection. I know my countrymen forever remain firm with both friend and foe, unswervingly faithful to ancient tradition. Seems my hot breath had blown out that candle. One remains. Then the safeguard of nobles, the son of Halfdan, gave him gifts in the hall, 12 treasures in all. Hrothgar bade him seek safety among his dear people, to come quickly back to them with precious gifts. Then the king of noble lineage, the lord of the Scyldings, kissed the best of thanes, Beowulf the Geat, and clasped his neck, while tears dropped down from the hoary-haired ruler. Old and very wise, he might expect one of two things, but especially one, that after this day they would not see one another, as brave men meeting together. Beowulf was to him so dear that he could not control the surgings in his breast. But in his heart the bonds of spirit held fast, and he kept secret the longing that burned in his blood for the dear man to stay. Then Beowulf strode away, over grassy turf, a gold-proud warrior, exulting in treasure. The sea-going ship awaited its master, riding on anchor. While sailing over waves, the gifts of Hrothgar would often be praised, for he was a prince in every way blameless, until conquering old age, as with many others, stole him from the joys of strength. 27. Then the company of brave young comrades came to the sea. They wore coats of mail, woven with interlocked rings. The coast guard watched the approach of this band as he had done before. He did not insult them by greeting these guests from the rim of the cliff, but rowed down toward them, proclaiming these shining warriors returning to their ship would be most welcome to the people of the Vetters. Then, on the beach, the curved, wide boat was loaded with war gear, the ring-proud ship filled with horses and treasures. The mast towered high over the hoard of riches given away by Hrothgar. To the guardian of the boat, Beowulf gave a sword, bound round with gold. So later on the mead bench, the man was more honored for holding this treasure, an ancient heirloom. Then Beowulf mounted the boat to drive through deep waters, leaving the Danish land. There by the mast was a sheet of sea garment, a sail held fast by a rope. The ship's planks creaked. The wind over waters did not hinder the wave floater from steering its course. The sea vessel plunged on, its neck spraying foam, floating over the flood, the tightly bound prow pitching over the streams, till the sailors could see the high cliffs of the Geats. The well-known headlands, and the ship shot forward, buffeted by winds, to land up on the beach. At once the harbor guard, who had eagerly gazed, looking far out over the ocean for a very long time, expecting these comrades, stood ready by the sea. He steadied on the sand the wide-bosomed ship, made fast by anchor ropes, so the might of the waves could not carry away the fine wooden craft. Then Beowulf gave orders to bring the noble treasures, precious adornments and plated gold, for it was not far for them to seek their great giver of gifts, Hygelac, son of Hrethel, where he dwelt at home, surrounded by retainers nearby the seawall. The building was splendid, the bold king sitting in the high hall, along with his very young queen, who was wise and accomplished, though very few winters had this daughter of Harith spent dwelling there, within the stronghold. She was not mean in spirit, nor sparing in giving gifts of rich treasures to the Geatish folk, far different from Monthryth, herself a high queen, who committed outrages. There was no man among the close comrades so brave as to dare to look on her by day, with eyes upon her, except her own husband. But he could count himself destined for deadly bonds artfully woven. Soon after that he was seized, held by strong hand grips for the doom of the sword, so the bright patterned blade would settle the matter, displaying deadly evil. That is no way for a queen to exercise power, though she may have no equals. She should be a peace weaver, not fake a pretext to take away life from a loyal retainer. So the kinsman of Hemming, aka Offa, a king of the continental Angles, put a stop to that. Men drinking ale told a different tale, that she produced less distress among the people, far fewer hostilities after she was given in marriage, adorned with gold and of goodly lineage. To the young chieftain, following her father's advice, and sailed over the yellow waves to take her seat in office hall. Afterwards, she made excellent use of her queenly throne, became famous for goodness as long as her lifespan was ordered by fate. She held noble love for the chieftain of heroes, who of all mankind, as I have heard told, was the very best living between the seas of all the nations. For Offa was famed as a spear-skilled man, and widely honored in gift-giving and war, ruling with wisdom his own native land. Then Offa fathered Eomer, champion of heroes, and kinsman of Hemming, grandson of Garmund, skillful in battle, and a horseman in Rohan. 28. Then Beowulf the Bold went with his warband, striding over the sand to the plain by the sea along the wide shore. The world candle, the coming of the sun, shone, the sun hastening from the south. Marching together, they quickened their pace toward the protector of nobles, the slayer of Angantyr, inside the stronghold, the young war king who had proven his worth giving reins to retainers. There, King Higelac was right away told of Beowulf's arrival. That back to his home, the king's guardian of comrades, his shield companion, had come, full of life, unharmed from sword sport, to greet him in court. Space was quickly cleared within the wide hall, as the king directed to welcome the foot warriors. Then with the king sat the one who survived the deadly fighting, kinsman opposite kinsman, as the ruler of men gave ceremonial greeting with earnest words. The queenly daughter of Harith went round the high hall with vessels of mead, showed love to the people, sharing the drinking cup among the heroes. Then Higelac began, pressed by curiosity politely to question his companion sitting there in the high hall about the adventures of the sea Geats. How did you do on your voyage, dear Beowulf? After all of a sudden you resolved to go off, to seek deadly combat far over salt waters, hand-fighting at Heorot. Have you for Hrothgar, the prince of renown, somewhat remedied his widely known woes? Worried over this venture, I have seethed with sorrows, yet did not trust the chances of my beloved friend. For long I entreated you not to take on in battle that deadly terror, but let the South Danes settle their own scores in their war with Grendel. I give thanks to God that I may now see you back, safe and sound. Beowulf, son of Ecgtheow, spoke. The truth is not hidden, King Higelac, among many men, concerning the great meeting of Grendel and me in the time we two tested each other in battle, in the place we brought sorrow, never-ending miseries, and to so many of the men of the victory shieldings. Yet I won vengeance, so no kinsman of Grendel can have that reason to boast, anywhere over the earth, about our night clashing, no matter who lives longest of that loathsome race, enveloped in evil. When first there, I went to the ring hall to hold counsel with Hrothgar. As soon as he knew what my heart was set on, the famous king, the kinsman of Halfdan, assigned me seat beside his own sons. The company was spirited. Never have I seen, under heaven's arch, more joy in mead drinking among friends in the hall. At times, the famed queen, peace-bringer to the people, circled around the hall, urging on the young revelers. Often she gave rings to some of the men before she went to her seat. At times, Hrothgar's daughter herself took the ale cup to each of the earls in the war band of veterans, and I heard the men sitting there together in the hall call her Frewaru, as she passed the studded cup to each of the heroes. She has been promised as bride, gold-adorned and youthful, to the gracious son of Froda. The king of the Shieldings, protector of his people, arranged terms for this union, considered it advisable that he could settle the conflicts of deadly feuds through marriage of his daughter, Yet seldom does it happen that the spear stays at rest for even a short while after a man has been slain, though the bride be splendid, the bride be splendid. Then may the Heathobard prince be provoked, and each of the thanes from among his people, when he goes with his wife into the hall, that her Danish attendants are entertained nobly, and richly adorned with ancient heirlooms, Heathobard treasures, made hard and patterned, that were theirs while they might wield those weapons. 29 through 30. Beowulf continues. Till they led their own comrades with themselves as well down to destruction in the shield play of battle. Then at the beer drinking, an old spear warrior will speak, seeing a Heathobard's sword on one of the Danes, and remembering the slaughter, his spirit made grim. In this sad mood, he begins to put to test a young Heathobard hero, awakening in his heart the fury of war through uttering these words. My dear comrade, can you recognize that sword? The final blade that your father bore into the battle with his helmet strapped on for the last time when he was struck down by Danes, the powerful Shieldings, who controlled the killing place when our Withergild fell in the slaughter of heroes? Now in this hall, some young son of those murderers swaggers out in the place, gloating in your arms, boasting of the carnage and bearing the old sword, the one that you by right ought to possess. Thus he tempts the young warrior every time he can with stinging words until the moment arrives when the offending thane of the queen is cut down, bloodied by the bite of the blade, forfeiting his life for his father's deeds. His Heathobard foe escapes with his life, since he knows the land well. Then the oath sworn by earls on both sides will be broken. After that deadly rage wells up against Ingeld, and after new troubles arise, his love for his wife begins to become cooler. Thus I would not count on the firm friendship of the Heathobard people, nor on peace made by marriage, without deceit towards Danes. I shall now return to speak more about Grendel, so that you, giver of treasures, may fully know how we finally concluded the hand fight of heroes. When the gem of the heavens, so many metaphors for the sun, had gone gliding beyond earth, aka night, the monster came raging, a gruesome night terror, seeking to take us by storm, where we were yet unharmed, holding the hall. The onslaught turned out to be fatal for Hanshio, fated for grim death, the very first of the victims, a well-armed warrior. Grendel the man-eater tore with his teeth the famous hall thane, gulping the dear man's body all the way down. Still, the bloody-toothed killer, intent on more slayer, did not wish to depart from the gold-adorned hall without more bodies to bear away in his grip. But he would pit his renowned might against me, grasping with hands. He held hanging down a wondrous wide bag, skillfully closed with clasps. It was cleverly designed for its deadly use, with the craft of the devil out of dragon skins. This wild savage worker came up with a plan to shove me inside, though I had done no evil, with many others as well. But that might not be, for in a towering fury I stood upright. It would take long to recount how I then repaid that enemy of people for each of the evils, while the deeds I performed there, my dear prince, brought honor to your people. Yet Grendel got away, to enjoy what he could of his little time left, though his strong right hand remained behind as a trophy in Heorot, while he wretchedly went forth, mournful in mood, to sink down to the mere bottom. For that deadly fight, the friend of the Shieldings gave me as reward many gold-plated treasures, a great store of riches, after morning arrived, and we had set ourselves down to feast in the hall. There was singing amid the general good cheer, and an old Shielding told tales from far back lore. Pardon me, excuse me. Apologies. At times, a battle-brave warrior took up the harp, striking joy from the strings, and relating a story both tragic and true. Then the great-hearted king told a wondrous tale in traditional fashion. Sometimes an old warrior, stooping with age, started to make speeches to the band of youths about boldness in battle. His heart surged within, as he brought to mind his wisdom of many winters. Thus he passed the whole day in the hall, taking our pleasure till the night once again came over the men. Then quickly after that, the mother of Grendel prepared revenge for her grief, making a sorrowful journey. Death has seized her son in war with the Vetters. This monstrous woman got revenge for her kin by killing a Danish hero boldly in his bed. Her victim was Aesir, a wise old counselor who went forth from this life. Nor the next morning might the Danish people lay their dead friend on a funeral pyre for the flames to consume the fallen body of the beloved man. For she carried off the corpse in a fiendish embrace under the mountain stream. That was the most grievous of gifts. That was the most grievous of griefs for Hrothgar, which the prince of his people had to endure. His friend killed, stolen, who knows what horrors befouled his remains. Then the Danish king, sorrowing in spirit, begged me on your behalf to perform heroic deeds, to dare mortal danger in the tumult of waters, to chance all for glory, promised me great gifts. Then I sought down through surging waters the well-known grim guardian at the bottom of the mere. For a time we two locked in hand-to-hand combat. Then the waters welled with blood, as I cut off the head of Grendel's mother with a mighty sword blade down in that war hall. And after such danger I departed, still living, for I was not yet fated to die. But the king of the nobles, the kingsman of Halfden, afterward rewarded me with great many gifts. And may I pour more coffee for chapter 31 so that my voice may hold out for the many more pages to come. This coffee was brewed from beans stolen from Grendel's hall. Its property is magic, and when ground upon, blessed by gods, that it might give warrior an incredible unending strength and infinite wisdom. With it I drank the cup, and could speak long without losing my voice and hoarseness of frogness, all that jazz shit. Oh, I see why. It's not the quality of the video. The quality of the playback. 31. Oh, much better. And by much better, I mean much clearer, and therefore I look much worse. Itchy, itchy, itchy. Thus the Danish king acted according to custom, and so not at all did I lack for rewards, rich payment for heroism. But the son of Halfdan gave me wealth to take home, to dispose as I wished. I bring all this to you, the king of brave warriors, giving it with gladness. For you are the source of every favor, and I have few near kinsmen except for you, Higelac, my uncle and my king. Then Beowulf had men bring the banner with boar symbol, the helmet worn high for battle, the grey mail shirt, the patterned war sword, while giving formal speech. Hrothgar, the wise prince, gave me this war dress, asked me to assure you, with a certain few words, that he wishes you to know of his goodwill toward you. He said that Harogar, former king of the Danes, prince of the Scyldings, long possessed this armor. Yet he would not pass on this breast protection to battle-bold Hereward, the king's own son, even though he was loyal. Make use of it well. I have heard that 4 horses, all fast and alike, with colors of bay, yellow shading to brown, followed these gifts. Beowulf bestowed on him both the horses and treasures. Such should a kinsman do, not braid a net of malice for other men with secret craft, nor prepare to send a comrade down to his death. The nephew of Higelac was ever loyal and true in the toughest fighting, and each one was mindful for the other's good. I heard that Beowulf gave Queen Hig a neck ring, wondrously ornamented, given him by Wealhtheow, now his gift to royal Hig, with 3 gracious horses bearing shining saddles. Ever after receiving the ring, her breast was adorned with the bright jewel. Thus the son of Ecgtheow showed himself to be brave, a man famed for fighting, with heroic deeds, liking ever for glory. He never slew hearth companions in drunken fury, nor did he have a frenzied spirit, but the brave battleman guarded this general's gifts given to him by God, of the greatest strength of all mankind. For many years he had been scorned, as the Geatish warriors considered him worthless. Nor did the lord of the Vedders wish to do him honor among the young men seated on the mead bench. They thought him to be slow and slothful, not qualified as a warlord. Yet a turnaround came for every act of disdain toward the glorious hero. Then the protector of nobles, the battle-brave king, ordered the heirloom of Hrethel adorned with gold be brought in the hall. No sword was the least better, a great treasure among the Geats during that time. Higelac laid the sword on the lap of Beowulf and handed over to him 7,000 hides of land, which is roughly, one hide was sufficient size to support one family, so 7,000 was probably about between 30 and a bunch of acres. With a hall and a prince's seat. Those two together In that country, lawfully held large territories, their lands by ancestral right, but Higelac's was larger in that broad kingdom because his rank was higher. Feudalism, or at least an early example of which. Afterwards, it happened a long time later in deafening battles when Hygelac lay dead, and his son Heredred was slain by war swords, struck down under the defense of his shield. When the battle-bold warriors, the Hetho I should have seen that. Okay. Okay. Hetho which means battle Shilfings, hunted him down with his war band of heroes, attacking him hard against the nephew of Hereric. Then Beowulf became ruler of the broad kingdom in whole, the realm of the Geats, which he ruled over well for 50 long winters. That was a wise king, old protector of his people, until the time when, in the dark of night, a dragon began to swell with power, which had been holding watch over a horde on the heath. A high burial mound where a path lay beneath, unknown to men. Yet one man found the path, making his way nearby, and he went inside to his heathen horde, seizing a cup with his hand, a large ornamented treasure. Though it had been tricked, while it was sleeping, the dragon made no secret of the plunder by the thief. The neighboring people soon found out the terror of its fury. Sounds like The Hobbit, doesn't it? 32. How long have we been on now? Oh, it didn't say. Oh, there we are, 31 minutes. Oh, not even halfway done. 32. The thief did not break into the dragon horde, desecrating the creature's home according to design, but out of sore distress. This slave of some master was forced to flee the beating of hostile blows. In need of a shelter, and compounding his shame, he invaded the mound. Then, when he saw the monster, this unwelcome guest stood still in horror. Yet the wretched man made his way forth, sought safety from the wrath of the dragon, slipping away from the sudden attack, stealing the precious cup. Oh no, a dragon! Oh, what do I do? Run, hide, steal his stuff. See how long he lasts. Many such riches, treasures from ancient times, lay in that earth house, an immense legacy of a noble nation, a precious hoard, which some man had hidden in long days gone by, considering with care that place of concealment. Death seized all his people in time gone by, and this lone man was the only one living from the band of warriors still walking their lands, a lone watchman, mourning friends, expecting the same fate. That for only a short moment might he enjoy the riches long held by his people. The barrow, as they're called, was prepared standing on a plain near the surging of sea waves, newly built on the nest, artfully made hard to enter. The guardian of ring gifts bore inside the barrow a mass of ancient treasures adorned with gold, worthy of a hoard, and said these few words: "Hold safety, O earth, what the heroes cannot, the wealth of our nobles. Of course, men of worth first founded on you. War death swept away in malicious slaughter every one of the men of my own people who had once known Halljoy before leaving this life. I have known to wield a sword, or polish the precious vessel plated with gold, the drinking cup for feasting, now that comrades are gone. The high, bold helmet, skillfully wrought with gold, will lose its gold plating, while those assigned to polish the war masks have long departed in the sleep of death. So also the mail coat, which came through fierce fighting, the sharp baiting of blades, in the clashing of shields, decays like the warrior. Nor may the ringing mail travel far and wide on campaigns with the war chief, protecting the sides of the hero, nor is there joy of the harp, gladness on the wood strings, nor does the good hawk swing through the hall, nor does the swift horse tramp through the stronghold. Terrible death has indeed sent forth from this world many nations of men." Thus sad in spirit, he sang his lay of sorrow, the last one to live, unhappily moving through day and night, till death's surging power reached into his heart. Then the old night raider, a smooth-skinned dragon that burned in the dark, flying through night skies enveloped flames, seeking out barrows, took joy in the hoard treasure with which it found wide open. Greatly was it feared by the folk of that land. It was forced by its nature to seek the hoard in the earth, where it stood old in winters, guarding heathen gold, yet from that got no good. Thus, for 300 winters, that tripping over my words. Thus, for 300 winters, that evil enemy held sway over the Horde Hall there in the earth, huge and powerful, till one man provoked anger, rousing it to rage. The runaway man bore the treasure to his own master, pleading for peace with his lord and safe haven as well. Thus was the hoard plundered, its store of gold treasures decreased, and the plea granted to the miserable man. And the Lord looked upon the ancient work of long gone men for the first time. In a while, anyway. Then the dragon rose from sleep, and discord was renewed. It moved swiftly over stones, till the bold-hearted creature found its enemy footprint where the man had stepped, sneaking with stealth near the head of the dragon. Just so may a man who is not fated to fall pass securely to safety from woe and exile, who has the Almighty's favor. The horde guards searched anxiously about the ground, hoping to find the man who did such a wrong while the dragon was asleep. In a heated mood and a troubled mind, it often circled the outside of the barrow, but there was not any man in that wasteland. Yet it now yearned for war, hoped for battle joy. At times it turned toward the mound, still seeking the treasure cup, but it soon found that one of mankind had gotten into the gold, the heap of riches. Then the horde guard waited, tortured in mind, till evening arrived. The barrow's protector was bulging with rage, the dragon desiring to avenge with flames the dear drinking vessel. All this savagery over a cup. When day departed, as the creature wished no longer to wait on the wall of the barrow, but went forth with fire eagerly blazing. That was the beginning of terror for folk in that land, as it soon ended in sorrow for their great giver of treasures. With that, we have to pause, because I must visit the facilities. Let me type something in chat bar, in case anyone joins us while I'm gone. Come on. Stay off that table. Stay away from those candles. I am retaining that coffee like a sieve. Welcome back. Chapter 33. Then the monster began to spew forth flames, burning bright dwellings. Light from fire shot up while the man watched in horror, for the hateful night flyer did not wish to leave any one of them living. The dragon's war could be widely seen, its fearful cruelty observed near and far. How this war ravager both hated and humbled the people of the Geats. Then the dragon darted back to the secret hall of its hoard before it was day. After the monster enveloped all who lived in that land in a blazing inferno, it trusted for safety in the barrow, its fighting force and the wall. That hope was deceived. Then was his terror made known to Beowulf, swiftly and surely, that his very own home, the best of buildings, the gift seat of the Geats, was melting in waves of flame. That was heart sorrow, the greatest of griefs for the good ruler. The wise king considered that he bitterly offended the almighty lord, the eternal chieftain, by breaking ancient law. His breast within welled with dark thoughts, as were not usual for him. The fire dragon had destroyed with flames the stronghold of the people, the land bordering the sea, the fortress of the nation. For that the war king, the prince of the Vetters, planned terrible vengeance. The champion of warriors, The chief of the nobles ordered a wondrous war shield to be made for him, entirely of iron, since he knew for certain that a wooden shield could provide no protection when fire attacked wood. The long famous king had lived to see the end of his life days in this transitory world along with the dragon, although it had long held the wealth of the horde. Then did Beowulf, the ruler of riches, refuse to seek the far-flying terror with a band of warriors, a large fighting force, for he was not filled with dread. Nor did he think much of the monster's war skill, its power and boldness, because always till now he had survived every danger, braving many battles. The crashing of combat since the time long ago when, blessed with victory, he cleansed Hrothgar's hall, and with his mighty grip killed the kin of Grendel, that loathsome race. So how long ago was that? Did he say? He didn't say. It was like 50 odd years ago. So he's an old bastard. Nor was that the least of deadly hand combats, when men slew Higelac, the king of the Geats, the kinsman of Hrethel, lord and friend to his folk during a raid in Frisia, in the storm of battle, beaten down by blades with swords drinking blood. Beowulf returned from there by his own skill, swimming over the sea, having captured alone 30 coats of armor, battle gear of enemies, when he attained the seaside. That might have been a tall tale. None of the Hetwer being Franks who fought against the Geats in the Frisian raid, none of the Hetwer who bore against him shields of lindenwood in the fighting on foot could boast after battle, since only a few escaped that war hero to seek their own homes. The son of Ecgtheow, alone and wretched, swam back to his people across the broad sea. Queen Heg offered him the kingdom and its hoard, treasures and the king's throne, for she did not trust that her son could wield power to protect the nation against foreign foes now that Higelac lay dead. Yet those grieving people could in no way prevail upon that noble hero in any of their assemblies that he would become the lord over Heardred, or choose to hold a position of kingly power. Thus Beowulf gave the prince full support with the folk, friendly counsel and honor till he was old enough to rule over the Vetergets. Yet Otir's sons from over the sea sought Heardred's protection while fleeing a feud, for raising arms against Onela, their father's brother, the lord of the Shilfings, the best of sea rulers for all those in Sweden who gave out rich gifts, a famous king. Thus Higelac's son Heardred reached his limit of life days, when for giving them shelter he took deadly wounds from the slashing of swords. Then the Swedish king Onela, the son of Anganthau, left to seek his own home, after laying Heardred low, making way for Beowulf to hold the high throne, to wield power over his people. That was a good king. 4. In later days, Beowulf bore vengeance in mind for Heardred's fall, and he became a friend to Edgils, who was totally helpless and supported Otir's son in fighting across the wide sea with a warband, giving warriors and weapons. He thus avenged Heardred in a bitter campaign, taking life from King Onela. And so he survived, the son of Ecgtheow, every one of the dangers of brutal battles, his tests of courage, till at last the day came when he would be forced to fight with a dragon. Then the ruler of the Geats, swelling with rage, went in a troop of 12 to observe the dragon. By then he had heard how the feud arose, a scourge to men, since by the betrayer's hand the priceless cup came into his possession. With them there, as the 13th man, was the one who had caused all of this conflict, the wretched fugitive, who in misery was forced to show the way. He went against his will to the site where he saw the underground hall, the barrow under earth, close by the surging sea, where wave wrestled wave. The mounded side was full of treasures and wire ornaments. The terrible guardian, well prepared for fighting, possessed those gold riches, old under earth. That would be no easy bargain to be obtained by any one of the race of men. That battle-hardened king sat down on his headland, their gold-giving friend wishing good fortune to his heart companions. His spirit was sad, restless, and ready for death, his fate drawing near, which would seek out the old warrior to find the hoard of his soul and to sever the tie of his life with the body. Not for long after that was the spirit of the war chief wound up in the flesh. Then Beowulf spoke, the son of Ecgtheow. While a young man, I survived many battle storms, the waging of war. I now remember all that. I was 7 winters old when the ruler of treasures, the lord and friend of the folk, took me from my father. Hrethel the king kept me and fostered me, gave me gold treasure and feasting, mindful of kinship, and I was not loved any less while he lived. A boy in the stronghold than any of his sons, Haribald and Hecthin, or my own lord Higelac. For the eldest son, a deathbed was spread by a dreadful deed that was caused by a kinsman, when his brother Hathkin threw his horned bow and let fly an arrow that missed the mark, striking down the prince, killing the kinsman, one brother, the other, Cain v. Abel, with a bloody shaft. No compensation could be paid for the wrongful death, no consolation to mind. The prince had to lose his life without hope of atonement, nor of being avenged. The father cannot take a vengeance on his own son for accidentally killing his other son. So also is it mournful for an aged man to be forced to suffer when his young son swings high on the gallows. Then he sings a lay for his lament, his sorrowful song, while his son hangs dead, a treat for the raven. Yet for all his age and wisdom, he may not provide any help to his poor son. Always in mornings, there will come into his mind the image of his son's awful end. He does not even care to wait in his stronghold for another son's birth, only one to be his heir, since his first son departed, forced by fate to suffer a terrible death. He looks with great sorrow upon his son's home, a desolate wine hall where only winds dwell, having lost all joy. The horsemen sleep in death, the heroes in graves, nor does the harp sound its happy notes in the hall as it used to do. Ah, yes. It's chilly wind blowing outside. It's cool in the air. The real first sign of autumn before the leaves change. And I have my window wide open. You can't see it because of this ornamental stack of books. But it is freezing. But I keep it open anyway because I like it. My only source of warmth. 3 cats, 1 dog, and a hot cup of coffee. And now I continue. Chapter 35. Here Beowulf continued. There we go, it's out of shot. He goes to his bed singing a lay full of sadness, his song for his son. His lands and his home now seemed too large for himself alone. So also did King Hrethel, protector of the Geats, store grief in his heart after Heribald's killing, for he could in no way seek for revenge on the slayer of his son, nor could he let loose hatred toward Heathkin for his hateful deed, though he was not dear to the king. In the midst of this misery which quite overcame him, Hrethel gave up men's joy and chose God's light, leaving his sons the lands and towns of his people, as a good man does when he departed his life. Then feuding and strife between Swedes and Geats broke out in bitterness of each nation to the other, over the wide waters, after Hrethel passed away. The sons of Octhenthal the Swede proved themselves brave and strong in battle and did not wish to maintain friendship across the seas, but they often fought with death-dealing malice around Hresnaber, which is a hill, not a woman. Hresnaber. I think I got that right. My kinsmen and friends took a fearful vengeance for that feud and that crime, as it is known far and wide. The one warrior paid for winning with his life. A hard bargain indeed. For in that faithful battle, Hathkin was killed, the king of the Geats. I have heard it told that in mourning Higelac avenged his brother. The killer was slain by the sword. The old Swede Octhenthal, who was seeking for Eofor. The helmet was sheared of this aged Skilfing, who fell down pride as death, who fell down pale as death. Not forgetting the feud, the hand did not hold back in striking that blow. In battle I paid Higelac back for the treasures he had bestowed upon me, wielding my bright sword as my fate would have it. He gave me fine lands, an ancestral home. There was no need for him to seek among Giltheths, or among Speardanes, or in the kingdom of the Swedes, to search for a lesser warrior than myself to reward with riches. Whenever fighting on foot, I always in front in battle. as long as life lasts, and this sword survives, which has at all times stood steadfastly by me. In front of our forces, I killed. In front of our forces, I killed De- Derefin, the Frankish champion, in hand-to-hand fighting. Another bear hug, a la Grendel. He could not bring back to the king of the Frisians any breast adornments worn by our warriors, but he fell in battle, the guardian of the banner, a hero in strength. Yet the sword did not slay him, but my battle grip crushed his bone house, rib cage. Still, the beating of his heart. Now with a blade, with my sword in hand, I have to fight for the horde. Then Beowulf spoke, giving his boasting speech for the last time. I have lived through many battles while in the strength of my youth, yet still I wish, as old protector of my people, to seek out this fight to win great glory again, if the man-slaying monster will come out of his cave to meet me in battle. Then he saluted the company, his beloved comrades, the courageous heroes with helmets strapped on, for the last time. I would not wish to bear a sword, a weapon against the dragon, if I knew another way to fulfill my boast, to grapple with this beast, as I did against Grendel a long time ago. But here I will face a foe breathing fire, blazing and venomous, so I must do battle under shield and mail shirt. Yet I will not yield a step on the horde's guardian, so we will test by the barrow's wall which one of us two wins the favor of fortune, as the Creator decides for us all. Since my courage is strong, I need not make a boasting speech against the war flyer. I bid each of you to wait near by the barrow, protected by mailcoats, proud warriors in arms, to see which of us two can better survive wounds under the tumult of battle. This task is not yours, nor is it fitting for any other man except me alone, to measure strength against the monster in heroic war deeds. With courage I will win a reward of gold treasures, or your king will be torn away from his people in a frightful slaughter. Then the renowned warrior rose up with his shield, bold under his helmet, bearing his battle coat under the stone cliffs, and trusting in his strength alone. Such is not cowardly conduct. He who survived many dangerous struggles, swords crashing together, so strong in his manhood, when warriors on foot clashed madly with weapons, now saw a stone arch with flames streaming out, bursting forth from the barrow. The waves of that stream surged with battle fire, so no one could come near or live through the passage leading down to the horde, because of the flames of the dragon's breath. Then the king of the Vetergoths, filled with fury, let a loud shout burst forth from his breast. His strong heart storming, his voyage roared out, his battle cry ringing in the ancient stone barrow. The horde guard then was seething in hatred at those threatening words. This was no time for seeking a truce. First from the stone hall came the monster's breath, eager for burning a searing thrust. The earth thundered. Hard by the barrow, the brave lord of the Geats swung up his shield against the stranger's terror, as the creature coiled, making itself ready to launch its attack. The bold battle king brought forth his sword, a strong ancient blade, its edges not blunted. Each of those enemies, intent on killing, inspired fear in the other. I really doubt Beowulf scared the dragon all that much. Stern in spirit, the ruler of his comrades stood with his shield, waiting in his war gear as the dragon quickly coiled itself together. Then, balled up and burning, the dragon slithered forth, speeding to its fate. The shield served less well, and for a short while, then the hero had hoped to protect life and body of the famous prince. For the first time in his life, there on that day, he had to wield war strength without Weird assigning him victory in battle. The bold lord of the Geats, raising the treasured sword high in his hand, struck the many-colored monster, but the blade failed when it hit the bone, biting far less deeply than the king of his people, pressed hard by dangers, needed for the kill. Then was the keeper of the barrow, after that battle blow, fierce in his fury, spewing out deadly fires, the flames of war sweeping the ground. The gold friend of the Geats might not boast of battle triumph, for the naked blade had faltered in the struggle, the famous old iron failing its mission. It was no easy move for Ecgtheow's kinsman, the widely famed king, to give up ground to the hated enemy. He would be forced to depart against his will from his home and land, as each man must, leaving this fleeting life. It was then not long that the two fierce fighters again joined in battle. The horde guard took heart, its breast again swelling with breathing forth fire, as the people's king Beowulf was pinned down in suffering, surrounded by flames. Not then did his comrades, the kinsmen of nobles, close ranks around him, draw line of defense, a brave fighting force. But they fled to the woods, where they saved their lives. Yet in one of them surged a feeling of remorse, for he well remembered the bonds of loyalty as he considered his kinship. Now we talk of the last surviving kinsman of Beowulf, chapter 36. He was called Wiglaf, son of Weohstan, a valued shield warrior, a man of the Scilfings, a kinsman of Aelfir. He saw his lord suffer the blast of heat burning under his helmet. He did not forget the favor he received in times past, the prosperous place among the Wegmundines. the Wegmundines, and each ancestral right he held from his father. Man, that Anglo-Saxon creeps up and sneaks up behind you. As it is, I believe, Anglo-Saxon, even though it's about Danes and Swedes. Yet, the words are of AS origin. Fight me if you disagree or prove me wrong. Wiglaf could not hold back, but his hand heaved the shield. His yellow lindenwood. He seized the time-honored sword that was one of the trophies taken from Eanmund, the son of Otyr. Weohstan had slain him, a friendless exile in a fateful battle. With the blade of his sword and carried to his kinsman the shining helmet, the ringed shirt of mail, the gigantic gold sword, gifts given him by Onela, the battle armor of Eanmund, his brother's son, with ready war gear. Nor did Onela speak afterward concerning their feud, though Weohstan killed his kin. The victor held those treasures for many half-years, the shining sword and shirt of mail, until his own son could perform bold deeds, as his father had before. When in his old age he left from this life among the people of the Geats, Weohstan gave Wiglaf a countless collection of arms. And now was the first time for the brave young warrior to withstand such fury, the storm of battle standing beside his beloved lord. His spirit did not waver, nor would his father's weapon fail in the fighting, as the dragon would discover when they both had come together in battle. First Wiglaf spoke, said to his comrades many words of truth while he mourned in spirit. I remember the day when we were drinking mead, and we pledged loyalty to our prince in the beer hall while he was giving us gifts, that if ever we were driven to such distress as this, he would repay him. We would repay him for our war gear, our helmets and strong swords. So for this venture, by his own will, he chose us from all his warband, thought us worthy of glory, and gave me these treasures, for he considered us steadfast spear warriors, bold in our helmets. Though a brave lord had planned to perform all by himself this great work of courage as protector of his people, since he among men had done the most daring of deeds, winning the greatest glory. Now has the day come that our dear Lord is in desperate need of our strength, of good men in battle. Let us then go to him, provide help to our war prince, while there is still fierce fire terror. God knows this about me, that I would much rather that my body be embraced by the flames, standing with my gold giver. It does not seem to me brave that we bear our shields back to our home, unless we first use our strength to protect the life of the prince of the Vetters, and destroy the dragon. For I know that Beowulf, with his past deeds of glory, does not deserve to suffer such affliction by himself among the Geats, and sink down in defeat. Together we shall share the same sword and helmet, the mailcoat and armor. Then Wiglaf strode through the smoke of death with his helmet to help his lord, and spoke few words. Beloved Beowulf, give this fight your best effort. As you said in your youth, in days long ago, you would never allow your fame to fade away while you still live. So now, steadfast leader, renowned for great deeds, shall you defend your life with all your strength. I will support you. After he spoke, the huge serpent came raging, the death-dealing terror striking forth once again, surging with flames, seeking to attack its hated foes, the much-loathed men. Waves of fire swept Wiglaf's shield, burned it to the boss, nor might the mailcoat provide needed protection to the young warrior. But the youth fought on bravely, nonetheless, under his kinsman's shield, when his own was consumed in the storm of fire. Then once more the famed war king was mindful of glory, and with mighty strength pressed hard by the evil foe, swung his battle sword so it stuck in the dragon's head. Yet, Negling shattered Beowulf's great blade. The ancient grey iron failed in the fighting. It was not given to him that he might get help in that hard fought battle from the edge of the sword, for his hand was too strong, so he overtaxed every sword, as I have heard told, with the power of his swing, when he bore into battle a wondrously hard weapon. He got nothing from that. Then for the third time, the threatening monster, the frightful fire dragon, mindful of their feud, rushed on the famed ruler when he saw an opening, seething and battle-grim, surrounding his neck with fierce sharp fangs, digging into his flesh to drain life from his body as the blood streamed out. 37. I don't know how much more my voice can take. Let's see, how many more pages do we have? Like none. Like 34 pages. I think we can wrap this bastard up. I think we can stick a sword in this beast, and hopefully our sword won't break, because it's not a real sword, it's a metaphorical sword. Welcome to Mortar and Ivy. 27, 37, 47. Do I hear 57? Man, this candle smells great. It's French vanilla. When the prince of the people had greatest need, I have heard that his comrade displayed great courage, great skill and boldness, as befit his nature. Brave Wiglaf did not strike at the head of the beast, but his hand was burned in helping his kinsman, striking the creature somewhat lower down, so the warrior's sword, gleaming with gold, began to die down. No, so that the sword, gleaming with gold, plunged into the dragon, and the deadly flames began to die down. Then once more the king gained control of himself and gripped his short sword, worn at the hip, which was considered to be the weapon of last resort. Sharpened for battle that he wore at his waist, and the people's protector sliced through the serpent. They had felled their foe, together, bravely taking its life, and the two had brought down the dragon as noble kinsmen. Giving each other pats on the back, no doubt. Thus should a thane always act in time of need. That was the last of the triumphs that the prince accomplished through powerful deeds of his works in this world. For soon the wound that the dragon had dealt him during the struggle began to burn and to swell, and then he felt the murderous poison from the monster's fangs well up in his breast. Then the bold king went to sit himself down by the side of the barrel, thinking deep thoughts, looking on that work of giants. How stone arches inside that ancient earth hall were held firmly in place, surrounded by pillars. And then the thane, who proved loyal without limits, took water in his hands to wash away the blood from his famous prince, his lord and friend, who was weary from battle, and unfastened his helmet. Oh God, Beowulf's gonna speak again. God. Can we do 31 more pages? Then Beowulf spoke, wounded as he was and wretchedly suffering. He clearly realized that he had gone through the days given to him, his time of joy on earth. His long life was hastening to depart, and death was extremely close by. Now I would wish to give my war gear to my son, if fortune had so favored me that I would be able to leave arms to an heir, my own offspring. I've ruled over my people for 50 winters, and there's no folk king around. Hold your tongue, be still. There is no folk king of any of the neighboring nations around us who ever dared to attack me with allies, threatening with terror. In the time I was given, I lived in my own land, ruling my people well, never turning to treachery or swearing to oaths contrary to right. In all this I take comfort and joy when now I am stricken with death-dealing wounds. The ruler over mankind has no reason to charge me with murdering kinsmen when my life departs from my body. Now, dear Wiglaf, make haste to look upon the hoard in that mound, under old grey stone, since the dragon lies dead, sleeps from sore wounds, stripped of the treasure. Go quickly now, so I may readily gaze on the long-held riches, look on the gold treasures, the bright beaded gems, and thus I may more peacefully, for winning this wealth, pass on from this life, leaving behind my people, whom I long have ruled. 28. I have to take another trip. The facilities runs through me like a sieve. 38. I have heard it said that after Beowulf spoke, the son of Weohstan quickly obeyed his wounded lord, weakened from battle, and went under the barrow's roof, wearing his mail coat, the war shirt woven with rings. And the brave young kinsman, exulting in conquest, saw many precious jewels as he passed by the seat, glittering gold lying around on the ground, a wonder on the wall, and the den of the dragon, old flyer by night. Standing nearby were drinking cups, vessels from former times, with no one to refurbish them, their ornaments long gone. Here was many a helmet, ancient and rusty, and piles of arm rings, twisted with skill. Such a wealth of treasures, gold lying in the ground, even if it is hidden, may easily seduce any man anywhere. Join us for story time, Ducky. Yes. Be still. Be still. Be still. Stay. He also saw on high, hanging over the hoard, a standard sewn with gold, artfully handwoven with the grace of skill. From it came a glow, so he might make out what lay on the floor, and inspect all the treasures, for no trace of the dragon remained by the hoard, since the sword swept him off. And I have heard it told that the hoard was plundered, the barrow built by giants, when the man alone took as he wished, wrapped his arms around riches, stealing cups and dishes, and also the standard, the brightest of banners. The sword of Beowulf, that blade of iron, had earlier injured the one who protected those precious treasures for a long time, waging terror with flames, fighting for the hoard with fierce searing heat, in the midnight skies till he met violent death. Are you watching us in the video? Wiglaf the retainer made haste to return, urged on by the treasures. The true-spirited man wished to know whether he would find the Prince of the Vetter still living, though weak, in the same place where he had left his lord. Bearing treasures from the barrow, he found Beowulf, his beloved king, all covered with blood, near his limit of life days. He began to splash water to revive the war hero, till the vanguard of his words broke free from the breast hoard, and the king spoke, the old man in his suffering, gazing on the gold. I wish to give thanks, speaking with such words as I made to the almighty ruler, the king crowned with glory, the eternal Lord, for these riches I look on here by the barrow, that I have been blessed to acquire for my dear people, before the time of my passing. Such I have traded my old life for these treasures, long held in the hoard. Now you must provide for the care of the people, for I cannot abide here longer. Order the battle-famed men to build up a mound, after the funeral pyre, splendid over the sea, that shall serve as memorial for my people, towering high on the headland of Hrosnesnes, so that seafaring men may in seasons to come call it Beowulf's barrow, as they drive their ships through the darkness of the deep, having come from afar. Then the bold-spirited ruler removed from his neck a gold circlet and gave it to his loyal thane, the young spear warrior, also his gold-gleaming helmet, ring, and coat of mail, commanding him to use them well. You're the last man left of all our king, the Agamemnon people. Weird has swept us away, all our family, according to their fates, and those nobles still in their strength. Now I must follow. And that was the last word the old war king spake. From the spirit in his breast, before he sought the pyre, the surging of flames, and then his soul travelled forth from his breast to the fame of the righteous. Valhalla. Just kidding, he's Christian, according to this. Oh, my puppy. Oh, my puppy, look at this dog. Look at this dog. Look at this dog. Oh, she's a good dog. Oh. 29. Then sorrow came over the youthful kinsman, as he looked down in grief, and saw on the ground the one he loved best at the end of his life, after wretched suffering. His slayer dead. His slayer lay dead also, the terrible earth dragon, his life torn away in a violent death. The dragon in its coils no longer held power over the hoard of rings, since the blades of iron, hard and battle-sharp from the smith's hammer, severed it from life, and the monstrous wide-flyer, stilled by its wounds, was hurled to the ground near the hall of the hoard. No longer was it seen to be soaring aloft, mounting up high in the midnight skies, reveling in riches, but it fell to the earth through the war chief's work in hand combat. Truly, as I have heard told, few men of might who lived in that land have enjoyed success, however daring they were in dangerous deed, rushing to battle against that poisonous breath, or reaching in hands to take from the rising hall, if they found awake that fearsome guardian on watch in the barrow. Yet with his death, Beowulf had paid the price for many treasures, for both he and the dragon found a bitter end to this fleeting life. Then it was not long till those fearful of fighting gave up the woods. Cowardly traitors, 10 altogether, not daring to defy the monster with spears, proving disloyal to their lord in his need. They approached in their same, bearing their shields, their weapons for war, where the old king lay, while looking at Wiglaf. He sat there wary, the brave fighter on foot, nearing his lord's shoulders, tried to wake him with water, but without success. He did not have the power to hold life in the prince. Here, on this earth, though he earnestly wished it, nor in any way changed the will of the Almighty. For the decree of God ever governs the deeds of every man, even as it still does today. Then was it easy for cowards who lost courage to get a stern speech from the young hero. So Wiglaf spoke, the son of Westen, sorrowing in spirit, with content for those comrades. Listen to what truth an honest man may tell, that the very ruler who gave you rich gifts, the war gear you wear now standing beside him, went off and the prince offered those on the ale bench, sitting around the hall, both helmet and mailcoat, as gifts to his thanes, and so great was their splendor as he could find from near and from far, that he had totally wasted those gifts of war gear, given how you behaved when battle came on him. The king of our people had no cause to boast of his comrades in fighting, yet God granted him, the ruler of victories, that he himself gained vengeance alone with his sword when he had need of strength. I could do little to protect his life, giving support in the battle, yet still I began, well beyond my power, to provide help to my kinsmen. When I struck with my sword the evil enemy, it gradually grew weaker, and the fire less fiercely surged from its mouth. Too few men formed around to defend the prince when this distress was upon him. Now the giving of treasures and gold-adorned swords, and all joy for your kin in your much-loved land, will come to a halt. Every one of your kindred will be made to move on, with the rights to his land stripped away. When war chieftains from afar hear the tale told of your flight from your lord, that deed without glory. Death is better for all noblemen than a life of shame. It's chapter 40. Be right be. Come on. Let's mark my spot. Candles are out, so the cats are safe.
You may pour yourself a hot beverage as well.
Chapter 40. Then he, Wiglaf, directed a man to report these deeds up in the camp over the cliff where the warriors sat, in mournful mood the whole morning long. Shields at their shoulders, expecting one of two things, either their dear leader's death or his coming back once more. Alas, the former. The messenger who rode up the headland kept little back of the news of the battle, but he told the tale truthfully to all the warriors. Now the giver of gifts to the people of the Vedders, the lord of the Geats, lies fast on his deathbed, his place of slaughter through the serpent's evil. And likewise beside him lies that death dealer, slain by the hip knife. For Beowulf's sword could not cut fatal wounds in any way into the monster. There beside Beowulf, Wiglaf remained sitting, the son of Eösten, one warrior over the other, who is now without life, on guard at the head, holding sorrowful watch. Oh, do you have to go outside again? We get about 18 more pages. There's nobody watching at this moment.
It's so weird to watch them delay. I should have broke the book out here. In all honesty, I could continue as the window is open. Oh well, it's too dark.
we're back. Chapter 41. No, we're not there yet, my bad. Still in chapter 40. The messenger had passed along Beowulf's message that Beowulf was dead. Now may our people expect a time of war, when the fall of our king is related far and wide and cannot be concealed from Franks and Frisians. Harsh strife with the Hugas, which was a Frankish people, was caused when Higelac came with his ship warriors, launching his raid in the land of the Frisians. With the Hetwer, also Frankish people, attacked him with ferocious force and overpowered the Geats with greater strength. So the king and his mailcoat had to give way and fell among his fighting men. No riches did the king give to his bold warriors. Ever since that battle, the Merovingian king has denied us friendship and favor. Nor would I predict any peace or goodwill from the Swedes, since it was known far and wide that their old king Ankenthau had stolen the life of Hrethelson's half-kin near Ravenswood, when the people of the Geats, in overreaching pride, first sought to strike back at the war Schilfings. Quickly, the Swedes' king, the father of Othere, terrible in his age, swung his sword in reply, killing the Geats' sea king, Halfkin, and rescuing his old wife, a captive of the Geats, bereft of her gold, the mother of both Onela and Othere. Then Ankenthau followed his deadly foes until with great difficulty they got away into Ravenswood, though now with no ruler. Is this still all quotation? Yeah. Still the same dude rambling on. Then with his veterans he set up a siege round the wound-weary survivors, often promising woes to those wretched warriors all night long, saying he in the morning would slash some of them with hard-edged sword and hang others from trees for the sport of birds. But relief was brought to the desperate Geats as daylight first broke, and they heard the sounds from the horn and trumpet of their own Higelac, with that heroic leader following, that blaring with a band of warriors. 41. When does he stop? Are you this cannot. Still all quotation. Then a gory trail left by Swedes and Geats from the storm of killing could be seen from afar. How the fury of their fighting boiled with blood. The bold Swedish king then went with his kinsmen, old and much saddened, to seek his stronghold. Noble Ankenthau turned to leave the battle behind, for he had heard of Higelac's fighting strength, the proud man's war skill, and could not be confident that he would be able to stave off the seamen, to hold the horde safely with wife and children against these sea warriors. So the old king turned away, standing behind the earth wall. Then the men of the Swedes were pressing in pursuit, when the standard of Higelac completely ran over the refuge of their stronghold, as the Geatish warriors broke through their walls. Then blades of swords forced the grey-haired Swede to stay and stand beside fast there by the rampart. So this king of his people had to submit to the sentence of Eofor alone. He was struck with the weapon of Wolf, the son of Vanred, so blood with that blow sprang forth from his veins, from under his hair. Still he felt no fear. This aged Sylfing was struck back with his blow, far worse in reply than the fierce blow he received. I'm running out of, voices. This guy's got a weird voice because all my typical ones are taken. Nor was the strong son of Vanred when able to strike a blow back, answer the old man, who had cut through the helmet on Wolf's head, so that stained with blood the Geat had to give ground, and then fell to earth, not yet fated to die, but held on to his life, though horribly wounded. Then Eofor, the hardy thane of Higelac, where his brother lay low, swung his broad sword, a weapon forged by giants, over the king's broad wall, to split his huge helmet. Then the king sank down, protector of the people, overpowered by death. Then many comrades bound the wounds of the brother, quickly raised him up, and gave him some room so they could take control over the killing field. that once ever escaped his fallen foe's body, too Scottish, took the iron mailcoat off from Ankenthau, with his hard sharp sword and his helmet together, and bore the hoary king's arms to his own Higelac, who gladly took them and gave him fair promise of rewards among their folk that was fulfilled. The lord of the Geats, Hrethel's son Higelac, when he returned to his home, repaid that battle storm, giving hugely great treasures to Aerfer and Wulf, to each the cost of 100,000 coins and land and locked rings. No man in Middle Earth could slight that reward to the hard fighting heroes. Then, as a pledge of goodwill, he gave to Aerfer his only daughter to bring honor to his home. Such is the source of feud and hostility. When is he? Okay, that's when he ends. Such is the source of the feud and hostility, deadly hatred among men, for which I foresee the people of the Swedes to come seeking us, after they have heard it told that our own dear lord has lost his life, who up to now has protected our horde and kingdom against those who hate us after the fall of heroes. Bold men bearing shields, winning the good of the nation, doing noble deeds always and ever. Now let us make haste, so we may look in that place of the people's king, and carry out the ruler who gave us rich rings in procession to the funeral pyre. Now only one thing shall be burned with the brave man, for all of that hoard, with its countless gold, purchased at fearful price, and now at the last he paid with his life for the precious rings. Then will the fire roar, embracing all in its flames. Not any of the nobles will take off treasures as tokens, nor any fair woman wear round her neck a ring of gold as adornment. But all shall continue to grieve, bereft of gold, more than once forced to walk in a foreign land, now that their war leader has left behind laughter, all mirth, and all joy. And so shall the spear, many times in morning cold, be clutched in the hand, heaved up on high, with the music of the harp, wake up the warriors. But then the dark raven, eager to feed on fallen warriors, will speak much, telling the eagle of his pleasure in eating, and when he with the wolf both feasted on corpses. Thus the bold messenger told his bitter tale, in a strange voice that was oddly growing more and then less Scottish. Gotta dial it back, We're not in Scotland. Not speaking without truth about the past or the future. The war band all arose and went stricken with sorrow under Ernanus, their eyes welling with tears, to see the wonder. They would find there on the sand his spirit departed, lying on his last bed, the one who gave them rings in days gone by. The good ruler had passed on in his final day, when the famed war king, the prince of the Veders, died a wondrous death. Yet first they saw a far more strange creature, the loathsome serpent, lying on the opposite side of that same place. The fierce fire dragon, many-colored and fearsome, was scorched with flames. Stretched out, it reached 50 foot measures, lying at full length. It had once taken Nightjoy flying through the air, then drifting down to seek out its den, but now bound by death, it enjoyed its last earth cavern. By the dragon stood precious cups and pitchers, with plates lying around, and priceless swords eaten through by rust, as if they had remained there in the earth's bosom for 1,000 winters. Moreover, that massive hoard of heirlooms, the gold of men of yore, was hidden by a chanted charm, so that none of the race of men might reach in that hall of rings, unless God himself, the true King of victories, who has all his men in his keeping, grants a person the power to open up the hoard, a grant given by God alone to whichever man he believes worthy. Oh. 42. Thus was it seen that the dragon failed to succeed in its effort to hide the hoard under that cliff against lawful right. That guardian first had fatally wounded the matchless hero, but for starting that feud, the monster received cruel vengeance. It is ever a question where a warrior famed for courage may reach the end of his appointed life days, when he may no longer sit down in the mead hall surrounded by kinsmen. So it was for Beowulf, when he sought the Barrow's guard in a contest of battle skills. He himself could not know how his parting from this world would come about. Thus the famed princess who placed treasures there had formally declared that until doomsday any person who would plunder the hoard would be guilty of sins, trapped in temples of idols, held fast by hell's chains, tormented by terrors, and poked in the arse with a hot poker, unless he had already acknowledged more fully the power of God alone to give treasures. Wiglaf then spoke, the son of Weohstan. Often many a warrior, for the sake of one man, must endure misery as had happened to us. Nor might he have persuaded our own dear prince, the protector of the kingdom, by any other counsel, that he may not meet in battle the guardian of the gold, but to let the creature lie where long he had been, watching over that dwelling till the world's end. But he held to his high destiny. The hoard is now open, so grimly won. That fate was too grievous, that pressed the lord of our people to come to this place. I have been inside that barrow, and looked over all the treasures in that hall, where the way was made clear, though no welcome permitted by passage inside, there under the earth wall. In haste, I took handfuls, as much as I could carry of a mighty burden, of the treasures of the hoard, and bore them out here for my king to see. He was then still alive, conscious, and clear-headed. The old man then spoke many things in his sorrow, and said for me to greet you, bidding you to build, to honor your lord's deeds, a high barrow on the place of his funeral pyre, great and glorious, as he was among men, the warrior most famous round the world wide, during the time he took joy in the kingdom's riches. Let us now hasten to look one more time, to seek out the store of artfully made jewels that wander by the wall. I will show the way, guide you close, so you may gaze upon those riches, the rings and precious gold. Let the buyer be prepared, quickly made ready, when we come out of the hoard, and then bear away our beloved chieftain, our dear king and comrade, where he will long remain in the protection of the all-powerful ruler. The son of Weohstan, the battle-brave warrior, directed the orders be given to many of the men who held their own halls, that they should bring wood from their lands far away for the king's funeral pyre, where the good lord now lay. Now shall the fire devour, with swelling dark flames, the dear chieftain of warriors who has often survived through showers of iron, when a storm of arrows, urged on by great strength, shot over the shield wall, shafts doing their duty, flying true of their feathers to direct their sharp heads. Then, after his speech, the wise son of Weohstan called forth from the band of kings own thane a group of 7 together, the best of spear warriors, and went with that 7 under the enemy's ceiling as a band of fighting men. One bore in his hand a torch for the light, leading the way for the others. There was then little need to draw lots to decide who would plunder the hoard, since without its protector they could see all the riches still held in that hall, all wasting away. And little did any of them mourn that they might quickly carry out from that place the priceless treasures. Then they pushed the dragon, the terrible serpent, over the cliff to be seized by waves, as the greedy hoard guard was embraced by the sea. Then a wagon was loaded with twisted gold treasure, countless riches of all kinds, and the noble prince, the hoary old warrior, was borne to Hronesness. 43. Then the people of the Geats prepared for him a funeral pyre in that place of no small size, hung round with helmets, shields of battle, and shining mail shirts to fulfill his requests. Then the lamenting warriors laid in the center the widely renowned prince, their beloved ruler. The warriors awakened the greatest of funeral fires on the high barrow, and the wood smoke swirled up, black above the flames. The roaring of the blaze mingled with weeping, wind surges ebbed, till the heat from the fire burst the bone house, breaking into the breast. Unhappy in spirit, the men sadly mourned the death of their lord. So also an old woman, her hair loose and waving, sang in her sorrow a song of lament for Beowulf's passing, repeating her prophecy that she feared invading armies of bitter foes, a great many slaughters, the terror of war troops, humiliation and captivity. Heaven swallowed the smoke. Thank goodness it doesn't give the old woman's song here, because I really don't feel like singing that right now. Then, on the cliff, the veterans set to work, building a barrow that was both high and broad, which could be seen from afar by seafaring men. 10 days later, they finished making the monument to their battle-bold lord, with a wall built around the remains from the fire, the finest construction that the very wisest of men might design. They brought to the barrow precious rings and jewels, and all such adornments as the brave spirited men had earlier taken away from the enemy's hoard. They left treasures of earls in the earth for keeping, The gold in the ground where yet it still lies, as fruitful top notes, pure vanilla. It's a 10. They left the treasures of earls in the earth for keeping, the gold in the ground, where yet it still lies, as fruitless to men now, as it formerly was. Then men bold in battle, the sons of chieftains, all 12 together, rode about the barrow, expressing their grief and lamenting their lord, with words wrought in song, a dirge for the dead. They sang of his valor and his deeds of great strength, with all their power praising the hero, as it is fitting for man with his words to praise his friendly lord, share the love from his heart, when the lord must go, passing beyond the bounds of his body. Thus, the people of the Geats gave way to grief, the king's hearth companions mourning his fall. They said that he was, among all the world's kings, the mildest of men, and the most kind and giving, the most gentle of men, and the most eager for fame. Thus ends Beowulf, originally written anonymously in the 9th century, carried down through vocal memory, transliterated, and finally translated, in this case, by John McNamara via Barnes & Noble's Classics, New York. Stay tuned. In the following weeks, we are not done with Beowulf. We're done reading Beowulf, but there will be more on the topic as I go over the cinematic adaptations of the story in the various ways, as well as how they inspired later works, including J.R.R. Tolkien's own Lord of the Rings. And I think that's it. Those two. Oh, and there will be a 10 Things You Didn't Know About Beowulf posted too in the near future. Thanks again for joining me, stranger, for Classics Reads Lives. Reading Classics Lives. Reading Classics Lives. I've been Johnny. You're always welcome in my neck of the woods.